Hey there, Nick Deckard here. And today I wanted to bring on a local mortgage expert who's helped over 1,000 people to buy homes here at the shore. She's been doing this for decades. And quite honestly, she has some of the best conversation points that I've ever had with a lender. So I want to bring her on today to help you to understand exactly what happened and how it's going to impact you going into the near term future. So without further ado, welcome, Kate. I appreciate you spending some time with me today.
Well, I appreciate being invited to the conversation.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So I wanted to just quickly start with a little bit about what happened. I'm going to tell you my 2 cents and tell me if I'm on point, off point, and we'll kind of go from there. So with the Fed having their meeting this week, they raised rates. Now, again, that doesn't mean that mortgage rates are going to react directly as a result of that. They're not going to go up, but we want to watch these meetings for a very specific reason. And why is that in your perspective?
You want to watch these meetings because they're key indicators of the opinion of the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve right now is tasked with maintaining a stable rate of inflation. Okay. In their opinion, that's determined around 2%. Well, our economy has overheated to the point that we hit inflation numbers over 8%. When inflation is hot, the Fed increases rates to stave off this number. When they're doing that, they are increasing what we call the Fed funds rate or the short-term rates. That's not mortgage rates, but certainly their opinion influences the direction of mortgage rates. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if the Fed says that inflation is hot and they have a job to do by increasing the rates, and in turn mortgage rates go up, when does it go, okay, well, we've had enough? Well, we may have hit that point because the Fed, although they raised 50 basis points this last time, and they did indicate that they will probably continue to raise basis points to get to their goal of staving off inflation. They did indicate that it may be working. In October and November, we saw signs that inflation is cooling.
So what I had seen over the past few weeks is that mortgage rates have been coming down, right? We had a good month or so between Fed meetings, and between those meetings, despite those rates going up for the past several meetings, mortgage rates actually came down. So it seems like the market tries to take all this into consideration, right, and price in what's going to be happening. And it seems like a lot of that may have already been priced in. So from what it looks like from an outside perspective, there's a chance, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and again, we don't have crystal balls, but we try to read the tea leaves as best we can. It seems that the worst may be behind us. What I mean by that specifically is that mortgage rates may have peaked. Would you agree with that?
Last time I've seen rates this low was in September. Likely the biggest hits in rates topped out in late October. So the answer is, since then, we've seen Treasury yields and mortgage-backed securities at lower numbers, which in turn results in lower mortgage rates.
Bingo. So that's good news, right? For anybody who has not yet made the plunge or has been sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out what happened or what will be happening. It's been a crazy, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, really 2.5 years at this point. But it seems relatively safe to say that we're heading towards some semblance of stability. All in all, this is a pretty positive meeting. Would you agree with that?
I think so. I mean, he clearly said it's a question of when we're confident inflation is coming down and it will sustain, then we may even be able to pull back, stopping these increases, and then ultimately make reductions.
Yeah, and
Now,
that eventually
again,
may be a couple years off.
that's not going to happen overnight. It's a
Right.
process. But at least he's indicated that, I'm seeing some signals here.
Yeah, no, and that's a good thing. And in the meantime, right, over the past few months, I know there have been many buyers, many agents like myself trying to find creative solutions to this interest rate problem, which we can't control, right? But there
Correct.
are some creative products that I've seen people doing. I've never actually had anybody go through these, But different rate buy downs that some buyers are negotiating with sellers to where they get that mortgage rate semi back in line with where we were at the beginning of the year. Have you seen any particular types of products or creative strategies that if somebody is really looking to make a purchase now, but the interest rates where they are still just unpalatable, have you seen anything that could help with that or take some of the sting off of that?
If you've got a seller who is amenable to helping cover some of the costs, there's opportunity to buy down interest rates. There is a product called a 3-2-1 buy down, where essentially you start with a low rate, it increases the next year, and then the following year, hence 3-2-1. So you're not going to get hit with that high interest rate until year 3. And the theory behind that is, if the world does in fact change and mortgage rates improve, you'd be a candidate for a refinance anyway, so you wouldn't be subject to that highest possible interest rate. But it's a tool that allows people to get in at a lower starting point. One of the things I've done is I've had the seller again help pay points. And candidly, in vacation homes, with the average buyer keeping the properties 4 to 6 years, an ARM product is an excellent tool. It gives the opportunity for a lower interest rate for a period of time. We call it a hybrid, and it's 5, 7, or 10 years that you can keep that interest rate fixed. The beauty of that product is it's an amortized loan over 30 years. So you're never going to have a prepayment penalty, and you're never going to have what we call negative amortization. But the reality is you get a much lower interest rate, and it's a more palatable transaction for the customer, because candidly, the numbers never lie.
Yeah, no, and I think what we're saying here is there are options, right? If we were having this conversation back in the spring, obviously not about rates, because rates were lower then than they are now, but there was no flexibility, right? There was no room for negotiating with nearly any seller on just about anything. That's where we were for about a year and a half straight, maybe 2 years straight. But I know I'm seeing it on my end as well. There are very few homes out there where the seller is not open to negotiating in some capacity, because the buyer pool and the buyer demand out there has gone way down. And I mean, I know on the mortgage side, right, loan applications are drastically lower than they were a year ago as well. So I don't want that point to get glossed over, right? I know we're talking about some fancy terms and things, which are all very important.
Right.
But I think one of the keys here to take away, if I were looking to buy in this market, would be that I have an opportunity here to actually bend things to my favor, right? Which was not an option for the past several years. So I think both of those products are helpful. I know I have had a couple buyers using ARM. They're very happy with it because, like you said, it gives them that confidence over the coming years of what their rate is going to be, but they'll have the opportunity, should rates go back down, to be flexible and refinance. So I think that wraps up nicely, I think, what happened this week. And not every week is this eventful, right? But when's the next Fed meeting coming up, by the way? Is that January?
February.
February. Okay. So we have a gap now, about 2 months, where we shouldn't see a whole lot of impact or impactful events that may swing things higher or lower. Does that sound about right to you? We should see things fairly stable for the next couple months.
I think what I could say is, honestly, the inflation should actually start to come down. And as we see more and more laggard indicators, jobs, employment, layoffs, unfortunately, all of those things are ultimately going to give the Fed pause, and we should see some better results to that in the spring.
I am in full agreement with you on all of those points. So ultimately, if you are out there and looking to make a move down here to the Jersey Shore, not just Ocean City, which is my specialty, but anywhere in the Jersey Shore, make sure you reach out to Kate. She will help you get locked up with a great product that's right for you. Again, that's why I love working with her, because she is a true advisor, right? She's going to figure out which is best for you, not what is best for the general public, right? There's no broad brushing. There is no rate quote of, hey, anybody can get a 6% mortgage with me. Well, it's patently not true. So, Kate, anything that you would like to leave everybody with before we wrap up?
Well, I'd just like to say again, thank you so much for this opportunity. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. It's my job to educate you so you can feel good about your decisions, whatever that may be.
So I'll put your contact info down in the description of this video, but quickly, if there's a phone number that if anyone wants to pick up the phone and call you, what's the best number for them to reach you?
Best number 609-226-9135. And if you'd prefer, you're welcome to text me. It would certainly be my pleasure. I'm here to earn your business.
Excellent. Thanks again, Kate. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Everybody else, I will see you next week.